Happy Friday. Let's do a wheel bearing, ball joints. I was going to do the shocks, but I don't really have time. I got to get this done. Where I'm going to start, I'm going to remove the tie rod. I've already got that nut loose. So basically, once you have that loose, pop that out of there, take your nut off. Sorry. There we go. That's out of the way. Put the nut back on and let me get set up for the next step. Okay, the next step here is, let's see if I can get out of your light. Take this 10mm bolt loose. That's basically what holds your brake hose and the wheel speed sensor line in place. You can probably go ahead and pop that line out of there. So pop that line out. Squeeze these little tabs. It's kind of hard to do one-handed. I'm not going to be able to do it one-handed. I have to set up my tripod. All right. All right, back at it. So basically what we're doing here is just disconnecting the wheel speed sensor line from this bracket. So basically what you're going to do is just needle nose pliers, squeeze these little tabs, and let's get this bolt out. A 10mm bolt. Okay, so that lets all of this come loose. You're going to come in here and pop these little clips loose. Just going to let that come out. And once you get up top, can't see it. So once you get up top, you're going to pull this connection out of that, push the tab. Let's move this up some. Let's disconnect this. It's your wheel speed sensor. Alright, so we've got that loose. Let's get our caliper bracket loose. These were 19mm, I think. Let's go for 18. So basically what I'm doing here, it's kicking the camera for one thing. I've got to get to these bolts. Not this one. You're going for the inner one, and it's going to be super tight. Okay, then you're going to come up here to the top one, Same thing. Let me move around here. Now grab a couple of zip ties. And what we're going to do is zip tie this whole thing up over here. So basically I hung the caliper bracket off of the sway bar there. You don't want to just let them hang by the brake hose. Now we can pull the rotor off. Or not. Okay, let's see. So this rotor is stuck on. So what we're going to do, in your rotor you're going to find a couple of threaded holes and just dig in your bolt bin till you find one that fits. I don't know what size these threads are. And thread a bolt in and start cranking. Okay, all right, so do I want to, now if you were just doing wheel bearing, on the back side, you're gonna see 3 bolts. I believe these are 15 millimeter on the back side. Now if you're 4-wheel drive, you're gonna have a big nut. You're also gonna have a big nut here. You're gonna have to take that nut off. That will free up the axle. When you take those bolts out, then you can remove the wheel bearing. So I'm gonna do this side a little bit different than I did the other side, and just take the wheel bearing out first. Okay. Those bolts are loose. And pull those the rest of the way out. I use this a lot. It's not very powerful, but it does excellent for what I use it for. Just a little simple electric ratchet. All right, so those 3 bolts are out. And let's see. See what's going on here. Yeah. On this backing plate, the back side is going to have these tabs right here. Those face the rear. Here's our wheel bearing. And inside here is your wheel speed sensor. It's just a 2-wire. I believe it's 2 wires. 2 wires, yeah. So there's just a wheel in there with some grooves on it. And this kind of counts the grooves, I guess. Best way to describe it. And when the ABS system sees that one wheel isn't moving, it turns on the ABS. All right, so let's take the, I'm gonna get a jack under here to support the suspension. Okay, we're ready to remove this piece here. Make sure you have a jack underneath the lower control arm to support that, because if you don't, when you take this loose, it's going to want to drop, and then you got to work your spring back in and all that mess. It wouldn't come out because the shock is in place, but still it wouldn't be fun. So let's take the lower. So basically what I used here is a big pickle fork. It's called a pickle fork. And you jam this under here, hammer it in place or hammer it in, and that separates that joint, breaks that taper. Same thing on the bottom. So once you get that loose, take these nuts off. think that's just turning. Okay. Yep. So this is where the fun starts. Okay. The stud is just turning in the ball joint, so I got to regroup here. Okay, so the nuts are just turning on the stud of the ball joint. What I'm going to do is try to put some pressure on that. Hold that stud. Ah! All right, so the trick for the top one, I didn't have to do this on the other side, but in the bottom of that stud, there's a spot for an Allen wrench. Basically what you do, if your stud's turning and you can't get it to stop turning, putting pressure on it from the top, like I did the other side, you have to put the wrench, Allen wrench, in the end, and that keeps that stud from turning, and then you can take the nut off. I'm gonna have to do the same thing on the bottom. Okay, 5 days later. Let's pull the, do I have that nut off? I don't even have that nut off yet. God, I'm stupid. There we go. Okay, there you have it, folks. That's off. Good Lord. All right, now the fun begins. So my ball joint press, I don't have anything deep enough to accommodate this stud, so I'm going to have to cut this off. So what I'm going to do is cut this stud off. Down here on the lower one, this is riveted in. I got lucky on the other side. It had been replaced already. But I've got to grind all of these out and punch those through. And then the new ball joint just bolts in. So I'm going to start cutting. So I lost my good light, the battery went dead. So anyway, how the ball joint press works, you have these cups. You want to make sure this cup is larger than the outside of your ball joint. This is going to press up, and this is going to sit in here like this. And then I'm going to bring the bottom one in like that and push up. So let me get this set up. Okay, so this is basically how this is going to look. And let me start cranking on it. Horrible angle. So I'm not sure if this is moving or not yet. Sorry, I gotta put you in the corner over here. something's going somewhere. All right, let's take this off. And let's see what kind of surprise we have. Hey, look at there. All right, we should be mostly out. Grab these huge pliers. These were my dad's pliers. I don't know what he did with them. They're pretty handy though. There we go. Upper is out. And like I said, the bottom one I've got to grind those rivets. So I'm going to start on that. Okay, so this is where I'm at. What a mess. Guys, just buy new lower control arms that have the ball joints in them. This is a mess. What I did, I've got 2 of them out. Drilled probably 3 different size holes, smaller and then progressively larger, until I could chisel the lower head of the rivet off. And of course you can see one of them laying right there. So once you get through that, I really wouldn't waste any time grinding the top of the head off, because that made no difference. So what you could do basically is drill them, chisel one of the heads off, and then once you start doing that, it's going to come out. You can just knock it through. So a lot of work, a lot of wasted time. So anyway, hope this helps you, and we're going to continue. All right, it's the next day, and we finally whooped this thing. So the trick was to drill through the rivets and then chisel them off. This was my dad's chisel. Worked great. So yeah, hammer and chisel the head off, and 2 of them came out just real easy. The other 2 I had to punch them out once I had the head off of it. So don't even waste your time on trying to grind one side of the head off. Just drill it. Just start. It took me 3 drill bits, smaller, then progressively bigger. And I may have used a 4th to kind of get through the top edge of the rivet, just to make it easier to chisel off. But once I did that, man, it was easy after that. So anyway, back together we go.